What is up? Matt Pratt here, and today we are going to jump back on the Supra. Now, last video, what did we do to the Supra? If you don't know, go check it out. Here's the quick summary. I actually installed this battery box. I wanted to move the battery out of the front of the car and install it in the rear, but in order to do that, I had to restore this entire interior section of this car. I mean, it was horrible looking. If you don't know what it looks like, go check out the other video and get caught up. So, I actually had Matt take apart this entire front of this car while I was working on the rear of the car. And I was actually supposed to start painting the front of this car. Since I'm taking the battery out, I had the opportunity to pull the fuse box and everything else out. I might as well shoot it right now. But there was one issue. I never fit up the passenger side fender to the door. If you guys remember, in a video I did the driver's side and it fit great. Super impressed with it. Well, now I have to fit up this side. Now, why is it so critical to fit this side of the car up? One major reason is this car, as you can see, has been worked on before. It's definitely got some funky rust, it's got some boogered up welds all the way across the front of this thing. It has definitely been repaired before, and it was not repaired by a very good shop, which is not a big deal. I just got to clean it up and make sure it's right before I start painting all over this thing. So that is our goal today. We are going to make sure our passenger side fender fits, clean up all these welds, and apply some paint to this thing so I can get all this wiring back in here and I can get the car running and mobile. Just for when we do paint it, we can move it around. So anyways, before we get to work, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on all the stuff that I work on in this shop. The more subscribers I have, the better this gets. Let's get to work. Radiator's out, condenser's out. We made a huge mess. I didn't realize that the upper hose was off, and as soon as I pull that thing out, let it drain, I mean it went flying out. So I'll clean that up. And then I dropped the airbag sensors, and it is just an ugly mess under there. I mean, look at that. That is by far not a good weld at all. It doesn't even look like they had the gas on. It doesn't even look like they had good penetration. And it looks like they tried to smear some seam sealer over it to cover it. Whatever. It's like that everywhere they welded, even on this side. As you can see, it's pretty gross in there. I mean, I know it looks ugly. It definitely wasn't done by a very quality shop, but it's nothing that I'm not afraid of. All I have to do is I'm gonna grind these welds down and re-weld the ones that I think are weak. This area is usually spot welded on. It doesn't even need this much weld in the first place, but I'm definitely going to re-weld it, clean it up, smooth it out, and make sure that it is 100% perfect looking before we paint it. Alright, so let's get this fender and headlight on the car, and let's just see how close we can get it. Alright, so the first issue that I have here is this gap is, what gap, right? It's insanely tight. And it doesn't feel like it has much movement. So, I'm gonna have to double check the door. We do have a little bit of gap here, but I might be able to just pull the striker out and get that to fit. I can see a lot of body work in this door, so there's a good chance that this door needs to be shoved back. I mean, this gap looks really huge. So since we got the fender off, or pretty much off, it's pretty easy to do. Loosen up the hinges here, slide it back, Tighten the hinges back up. Let's see what that does. Alright, so I've been playing with this gap a lot. You can see I got it to actually open up. But my issue is that we're kind of flush feeling here. In this area right here, the door is actually lower. You can see the fender kind of hits. And then we get down here and this looks kind of even. So I started to sand the area out and it had a ton of mud in here. Well, not a ton, but it had a good amount of mud to where you can tell that the mud kind of rolled to the edge. So I knew this area was damaged and I can kind of feel it. I got a high spot here. And if I come down, I have a high spot here. You can see how it burned through immediately. So this area has to be low. Whatever damage this did, when it hit in here, it pushed this part up and this part up. So what I'm gonna do is take the fender off and I'm actually going to tap this edge out and tap this and this part down. Hopefully that can pull this lip out and I won't have this anymore, because this fits really good. I'm pretty happy with that. And this fits really good, so I'm pretty sure my problem is that the door is actually tapped in. But I got a good edge here. There's actually a bracket in here and in here, and all I did was bend those forward a little bit, and those actually pulled the whole fender forward. Now, we still have to make sure our headlight fits up, but if I remember, this gap was kind of big down here, so if we got the fender to move forward more, that's actually better. So, all right. Let's take a look at what this headlight looks like first before we strip all this down for nothing. Let's do that. We're gonna take the headlight off, or we're gonna put the headlight in, check that gap, and then take it back out and we'll tap this thing. All right, this is about as good as that gap is gonna get. If you look in here, looks like the edge of it needs to be tapped out. And there's a bracket in here that actually holds the headlight, and they re-welded it to the fender, and it is a hideous mess in there. I don't even know if I can see it. But pretty much they got these brackets beat to hell. Not much I can really do about that. I think this is as good as it's going to get. When I repair the fender, I'm going to tap this up a little bit and I'll probably skim the edge of this. It's got a nice roll in the bodywork right here that I definitely want to take care of. I might actually have to tap the fender out a little bit to fix that. But everything else looks pretty good. This is kind of poking out just because I have a clip in here holding this on. I'm going to have to order the actual hardware for this, but I guess this headlight doesn't fit too hateful. It's like the gap here is pretty big, but there's supposed to be a gasket, a seal that goes over this that helps seal all of that. It's just missing. I think that's all we're gonna have to go with. I mean, it's never gonna be perfect unless I get a new fender, but I don't, this is a budget build. We're trying to use the parts that we have. Finding a good fender, I mean, it's gonna cost, I'm sure, an arm and a leg. And there we go. Cap looks pretty good. It's got some wiggle room, so might look a little big, but actually this kind of matches the other side, matches the front. This is damn near level, so I'm actually pretty happy with that. Now, I felt this thing, it's like dented in here. Something definitely hit it like this. I don't know why the fender doesn't have mud. Who knows what could hit this, but it does need like a quick skim right here. I can tell there's a lot of mud in this area too. I want to dig this whole area out. Take the mirror, door handle out, dig this whole area out, and just re-skim it. I think that's all it needs. Alright, we got the mirror off, the door handle off, the belt molding off. And as you can see, we have the original door, because you can see the original color, but of course, just like the other side, as you can see, it is layered with tons of Dynamat. When I did the other door, it actually didn't look this bad. And I actually considered leaving it on, but I got to take it all off. I took it off the back of the car, if you've seen on my last video. It was a pain in the butt, but if you just stay on it, it eventually gets done. And if you look at the way this door is built, I mean, it's open here, it's open here. It's only like a strip that I have to take off. So I think if I just concentrate on it and work at it, I'll get it off. And even if it leaves like little stragglers and so on, I mean, that's better than this thing looking like this. Like, I know it's covered up by the door panel, but I don't even care. I gotta take care of it while I'm at this point. That looks a ton better. The fender's still loose. I left the fender loose so when I was blocking it, I could push the fender out when I wanted it there, or push it in when I really wanted to concentrate on this edge. This did really good. Me beating on it and pulling on it made it a little ripply, and that just cleaned it all up. And then blocking the two together, better chance of having a level, I guess you could say, gap. Anyways, that looks good. And then with my little bit of extra filler I had left over, I took care of that because that was kind of bothering me. Now that the fender we know fits really good, we can continue with painting this engine bay. One thing I've noticed is that this bar right here, I don't think it's supposed to be here, and I asked a couple of friends of mine that have Supras, and they were like, hell no. I don't even know what they had here. I would say they had an intercooler here, but it's non-turbo. You know, so they must have wrecked it so bad that they had to replace the reinforcement, and maybe it was too expensive. And as you can see, the welds there aren't the greatest looking welds, which means they'll come out easy. But I'm gonna cut that out and remove it since we don't need it. There's a good chance that when I put an intercooler in here that I'm gonna need that space. Anyway, just weird things that I'm finding out with this car, so. Figure out how to straighten out the poor welded process that they did on here. It's turned into a bigger job as is. As you can see, I've been wire brushing the hell out of it, peeling off a seam sealer that they put on, and note that they put this seam sealer on and it's literally rusting underneath, so I got to dig all that out too. But after I get the seam sealer off, come to find out they were just burying some really ugly welds, as you can see. And over here, I don't even know how this piece is on here, but it's like got a couple tacks. You know, it is what it is. All I'm gonna do is grind it down flat and probably lay a bigger, heavier bead on there, which isn't the right thing to do with cars nowadays. You can actually weld them too much, heat the metal, warp the metal, make them weak, turn crumple zones into not crumple zones. It is what it is, but it's my car, it'll be fine. It's probably the best option for a situation like this. So, and just to get it all cleaned up and factory looking so I can paint it. So let's get back to work. Alright, I did the best I could with that. Touched up a couple areas over there. Nice fat boy right there. I mean, I stuck like a bead there. A little one there. I mean, it was really, really hard to get a decent weld out of there. They got dirt and crust and seam sealer jammed all the way up into the cracks of it that I can't really get out with the wired brush I was using. And the sucky part is once you get the welder in there hot enough and burning that stuff out, then you start to get a decent weld. But I put a couple thicker welds than usual on there. That should hold it. I finished a couple plug welds that they didn't fully finish. So one thing I want to attack is I got a broken screw in there. I don't think that's coming out. are a few days into this. We're all welded up, seam sealed up. We're now primed. I found this random brown primer I thought I would never use, but it's actually going to get me closer to the color of the car. We are good to go. So one thing is though about the finish of this car is that you can see it's got a factory satin finish to it, and I want to put that back on there just like I did the rear end. Usually if I had an engine bay this far apart, I would paint it, I'd make it glossy as hell to really give it attention, but I kind of just want the OEM look to this car. I just want to pop the hood and have an OEM looking car. Of course, I want to have a big turbo sitting here and some intercooler piping floating around, but as for the engine bay, I want it factory looking. So that's what I'm going to aim for. I'm going to base coat it, but the clear coat that I'm going to put on is actually going to have a satin finish. It should be pretty cool. I hope that it all blends in with the back of the firewall so I don't have to take all that crap off too. That is the main thing. So, alright, so the next step for this thing is to scuff it all up, tape it all up, and then we can put some paint on it. Look at that. She all nice and taped up. Pretty crazy. I don't know what's really crazy about it. Anyways. Yeah, I gotta put paint all the way up to here. I'm probably gonna get overspray onto here, but I'm really tired and I don't care. I'm sanding that panel anyway. Whatever. You guys really don't know how long I've been working on this engine bay. It's literally been about 2 weeks, and it's just because I get on it and something stupid happens, like re-welding the whole front of the car back on and fixing the door gaps, and then I have other stuff outside waiting for me to work on it. Like I finally got a focus bumper. If you guys don't know nothing about my Focus series, go check it out, but rebuilding that because that is going to pay for most of this motor work. Anyways, so yeah, this thing is ready to roll. I'm going to wipe her down and then start shooting it. Let me shut this door. All right, base coat is dry. Time to drop a couple coats of the satin color. Alright, now this looks glossy, I know, but after it dries it actually starts to give that satin look. But it's kind of cool because you kind of get an idea of what it would look like super shiny. Remember, we're not going after that look, but here's an idea of what it would look like. There you go. That is a satin finish, just like the rear end. It should go pretty good. It should somewhat match where I didn't paint, you know, but it's definitely freshened up everything up here. Definitely excited about that. Feels pretty good too. Alright, next step to this thing is untape it, and I gotta put all my motor stuff back in here, but it's it's so crusty, so I'm gonna have to like wipe it all down and stuff like that. It actually took me a few days to do this. Like I said earlier, there's just been little things coming up here and there that I've had to pay attention to. But I actually based this thing at night, and it was just taking forever to dry because I don't have the air circulation here or the turbulence to really pull the water out of the waterborne paint. So I actually let it sit overnight, and then I came in the morning and then, you know, shot it with clear. So it's crazy how many days I just have into this, what I thought would be simple task, but it is what it is. It looks really good, and it just makes this car more worth it. And we have a engine bay. So pumped. This looks so good. I love how this shine that I have on here, the satin finish. Yeah, what shine? It just goes with the rest of the engine bay. Like, it doesn't look too new. Even though the back of the firewall looks dirty, it transitions pretty well in there. And I even put paint all the way up here because the fenders sit like that and you see majority of this rail. So all that's gonna look really, really good. Finally, this matches. This was just spray bomb black. Everything looks really good. I did not expect to have to chop this thing up and weld and grind and seam seal, all that other stuff. I did not expect to have to do all this work to fit the gaps to here. But it is what it is. I don't like to skip steps for you guys. I like to show you guys what it is actually taking to get this car done. So what's left? Well, I still have to hook my battery up. That was the whole reason of doing this engine bay. I just need to run the wire up and plug that into the fuse box. I need to change the plugs. I need to change the oil in this thing. Pretty much what I'm saying is I need to get it running. It needs to be mobile to move around. Once I do that, then I can start working on the rest of the body. Now, majority of the body work of this is completely done. I just have a few dings and dents. I just got to go over the car really well to make sure I didn't miss anything. And then we can prime it, block it, and start painting it. So I kind of think maybe 2 more videos and then we'll be spraying. Cross your fingers, because as you can see, every time I get into something on this car, what happens? It becomes a bigger issue filled with surprises. So now I gotta go edit this video and get this part out to you guys. If you guys enjoy my stuff, hit that subscribe button. You don't wanna miss all the stuff that's going on. Hit that little bell, comment, like, share it, go work on something, and I'll see y'all next video.